Hello and welcome to TechieTalksAI. I am Avjit. In this video, we are going to see the part 3 of our 3-part series where we are automating our contact form submission with no-code solutions. So, no coding, just pure no-code automation using Make.com, Google Sheets and Relevance AI. In this video, we are going to see how we can automate the response for our contact form submission as well. So we'll see how we can make use of AI to automatically and intelligently respond to our contact form submissions. And we'll see a small and simple implementation of the same using Make.com.
Hi, welcome to TechieTalksAI. I'm Sri from Shogini. On this channel, we showcase hands-on demos and insights into AI, automation, and no-code tools. We have created several Make.com modules to simplify no-code automation for you. Subscribe and join us on this journey into the future of technology.
But before that, let's see the things that we have seen till this point. So during the first part, we saw how to perform the data capture using Make.com backend. There we had one contact form, and inside the contact form there will be different fields which the user will be able to fill out, and when they click the submit action, that information will be sent to the Make.com automation, and there it will capture the response using the Make.com webhook module and save it to the Google Sheets. By the end of that particular operation, we had one Google Sheet with the contact form submissions that were made from this particular contact form. Next, in the second part, we saw about the data analysis operation, where we saw how we can analyze the data that we captured to our Google Sheets using Relevance AI. So there we saw how the Google Sheet data can be processed using Relevance AI and generate intelligent actionable data using Relevance AI, and that data we saved it back to Google Sheets. And for that one, we made use of our Make.com scenario where we used the Relevance AI module to trigger the execution of a Relevance AI agent with the data from Google Sheets. Then the response that we received from Relevance AI, we parsed to remove any unwanted data from it, and using JSON parser, we converted that JSON into individual key value formats, and finally we saved all those information into our Google Sheets. So this is what we have till this point. We have our contact form. So this is our contact form, submit operation, and if we perform the submit operation from within the contact form, we saved it to the Google Sheets. We saved it to Google Sheets, and then the data that we saved within Google Sheets, we processed, we analyzed it with the help of Relevance AI, so that we'll get some actionable intelligence based on the contact form submission. Now what we are going to do is we are going to see how we'll be able to respond intelligently based on this data that is provided by our Relevance AI. So here we are going to see about what should be our response and how we can automate it. So essentially we are going to see about our action in response to the contact form submission. So this is what we are going to see as part of today's video. So in this video, we'll see how we'll be able to get the data from Google Sheets, then use an LLM like ChatGPT or Gemini or Olama models to make an intelligent decision based on that information, and based on the decision we'll see whether it should respond with an email or whether it should escalate it to the internal team, or whether you want it to let a human support agent handle it, or whether it is a spam and because of that no action required. So we'll see how we'll be able to use AI and AI agents to perform this operation. And this operation, remember, it will be different based on the organization, based on your process, etc. So today I'll just give you a sample of how you can do something similar to this with the help of Make.com. So it can be your starting point. So let's get started. This is a Google Sheet which we have been using throughout this particular video series, and here you can see there are two submissions that I made during my previous video. You can see my submissions and the generated analysis report from Relevance AI, and you can see one is a support request and another one is a spam. And in the last video I told you that this suggested response, this particular section, will be seeing as part of the next video. So this is what we'll be using today. So this field will populate with the response that you want to use corresponding to the support request that was made. So let's see how it can be done. As I told you, we'll be making use of a Make.com scenario to perform this automation operation. And remember, this is just a sample automation that I'm showing. We'll be able to do a lot of customizations to this in order to convert it into something which will be adhering to our organization policies and the processes that are relevant to our organization. You can even configure all these modules to be part of our original scenario so that you can manage a single scenario which will contain the end-to-end process from capturing the contact form submission to sending the response. But here I made it into a separate scenario so that it will be easy for us to manage. As part of the previous scenario, you will be able to add one module at the end which can trigger this Make.com scenario automatically. Or if you want to process this like at the end of the day or some other time, you will be able to configure the scenario to be executed at that time. So let's see what this scenario entails. So this scenario starts with the Google Sheet module. So in this module, what we are going to do is we are going to just read the data. So we are going to read all the data that we have populated during our previous executions and previous scenarios. So all the data we are going to read, and we are going to get one row from this particular Google Sheet. Here we are using the search rows module of Google Sheet. So this is the module that we are using, which will search the rows within Google Sheet and return some value back. And remember, we are searching for only one row at a time. So let's see what this particular module is doing. As usual, we have to give the proper connection so that this Make.com module can access our Google Sheet. And here I am configuring it to use the specific Google Sheet that I have created, I have used, and I am configuring it to use the sheet name which is contact form. Then here I am configuring it to process the first row of that particular Google Sheet as a header. So it will be able to use that information to manage the first row as header row. In here we are specifying what are the columns that you want this module to return based on the search. And then we are providing the filter, and as you can see here we are specifying multiple filters, and based on these filters it will perform the search operation, and the return value will be the row or rows based on this search filter and this column range. Here we are providing three filters. One is that we want to ensure that the email field is present. It exists. That means the contact form submission is there. Next, we are adding one filter which is recommended action. So this is the recommended action based on our Relevance AI analysis, and we are saying that it should also exist. And finally, we don't want it to get the rows which we already responded to. So that is why we are using this particular filter, where we are saying that it should filter those rows where the suggested response is empty. It does not exist. And here we are using AND operation, so that you want all three of these filters to be true. Then only it will be able to get the corresponding row. And finally, we are specifying the limit, which means that we want only one row to be returned. Like I mentioned, we will process one row at a time. Okay, so this is my first module, which is Google Sheets search rows. And after execution, this will return one row from our Google Sheet, which will have those filters satisfied. Now we want to provide the information that we collected from this Google Sheet to an LLM, so that we will be able to use the LLM to identify what is the response that we should take. So here you can use an LLM, you can use your own agent, you can create multiple agents to perform the operation, etc., depending on how you want to implement. In this, I am using one Google Gemini AI module. So here I am using the Google Gemini create a completion module. So this will be using the Gemini LLM tool. You can replace this with OpenAI or Claude or any other LLM account that you have. So let me show you what I have configured this LLM with. And like in the case of most of the modules, you have to first provide the proper connection. So make sure to connect your Gemini or OpenAI or whatever account with this one. And then here we are providing the model that we wanted to use. So here you will be able to search from the list of models that it provides. You can see the list is huge. So depending on your requirement, your need, depending on cost management, operations, etc., you have to identify which model works better for you based on how much you are willing to spend and what is required for this particular operation. I have selected a small model, which is Gemini 2.5 Flash Lite Preview model. You can use any model in this one. Now under messages, I am adding one user message. See the role I am selecting as user, and this message type I am specifying as text. And here this is where I am using the prompt, which is a custom prompt that I created, which I want the LLM to use to process the data that is there in the Google Sheet and generate the proper response. So this prompt you will be able to adapt depending on your organization, your scenario, what is it that you want to perform, or what are the operations that you want to perform in response to the contact form submission. So here in this prompt, I am telling it to generate a personalized rich text email reply based on the contact form submission. Here I am telling it to generate the email with proper tags and markdown so that it will look rich. And if the response shouldn't be an email, then I am asking it to recommend alternate actions. What is it should do if it is not able to email properly? And these are the different options that I am providing. Like if it is a spam, then no reply required should be there. You can also provide the option to notify a human agent so that human agent can directly respond to that particular contact form request. Then if it is something not relevant to your organization, then no action is required. So that also I am configuring here. And if something that should be handled by some other team, then I want it to escalate internally depending on whether it is a technical email or a support email or a sales email. these sections you will be able to adapt accordingly. This is just to give you an idea of what are the things that you will be able to implement as part of your agent decision logic. This is where your LLM or the agent will make the decision on what action should be needed based on the contact form submission and also the analysis of that submission using Relevance AI. Here I am providing different inputs based on the Google Sheet data that we collected, like I am giving the date, name, message, then all the information that was generated with the help of Relevance AI, including recommended action. And finally, I am providing it with instruction on what it should do based on that input information. And here I am telling it different operation based on that what it should do. So this is my prompt, and here you see this one. I want it to maintain a professional and warm tone, and I want it to reflect on the message, sentiment or intent of the original submission, and I am also configuring it to include proper call to action, whether it is booking a call or checking documentation or replying for more information. So I am configuring it to have that information as part of the LLM prompt itself. And here I have added some information, so you can add the information about your organization so that it can intelligently add the relevance link and email address etc. to that action or the response. If you want, you can even provide it with demo link or your meeting link or any documentation link etc. that you want it to use as part of your response. So you can configure like that. So currently, since this is a demo, I am telling it to generate some random URLs based on the company website information. In real world scenario, you will be providing it with proper details so that it can add it as part of the response. And finally, I am telling it to configure the response in a JSON format similar to this one, so that we will be able to use make.com to easily parse the JSON response. So this is the prompt that I am giving to my LLM module so that it can process the contact form submission and the Relevance AI analyzed data to generate a proper response for me. The response from Relevance AI may contain JSON qualifiers. So if it is there, we want to remove them. So that is why we are using the text parser replace module, like how we did for the previous scenario. Here we are removing these patterns, these qualifiers that can be there in the response, and make sure to give global match, case sensitive and multi-line as true. And here we are providing the input as the result from our Gemini AI. So this is the response from our LLM. The output of this module will be a clean JSON. So we are providing it as input to another module, which is the JSON parse JSON module, which is used to parse the JSON and convert it into key value pairs. This is similar to what we did in the previous scenario as well. So this is the JSON parse JSON module, and here we are providing the input as the JSON string that will be the cleaned JSON string from this particular module. Now I am adding one router module so that depending on different decisions, I will be able to configure it to perform different operations. So here I am just using two such paths, one for email sending and another one for anything else. Depending on your scenario, your implementation, you will be able to add different paths so that you can take different actions. So here I am adding one filter. So this is the filter that I am adding. So in the response type, so I am telling the AI to respond with different items including response type. So we are seeing whether the response type is email, because only if the response type is email, we will be required to send the email. So that is what we are checking with the help of this particular filter. Now if email is the response type that the LLM suggests, then we are making use of the email module, which is send an email to send an email to our end user. So this is the email module. Here also you have to give the proper connection so that you can use your account to send the email from, and you can add other configurations like whether you want this to save the message after sending. So I don't want that, so that is why I am using no for this one. And here, see, this is where you have to provide your recipient email address. So this email address will come from your contact form submission, so that is why we are using this email field here. Generally in real world scenario, you should also add recipient depending on your support team or someone who should also be in the loop. You can add them as recipient using this add a recipient option. And here, if the response type is email, I am telling it to provide me with two things. One is the subject for the email and another one is the content for the email, which will contain HTML tags as well. And we are telling it to use that subject as the subject line for the email that we are sending and the content as the content for that particular email. And after sending the email, we are saving the response to Google Sheets so that we will be able to keep track of the actions that we took. And this we are using update a row module. So let's see this Google Sheets module. Make sure proper connection is enabled, and we are selecting the spreadsheet and then specifying the sheet name, and here we are going to specify which row we want to update. So this row will be same as that of the row that we filtered with the help of this particular module. Now the header configuration, so that is same as last time. And here we are not going to populate these fields because these fields we already populated. We are only interested in two fields. One is the suggested response, where we are adding the response type, which is email. Then we are adding the subject and the message that we used for that particular email response. And finally, we are updating the lead status to email sent, so that we will be able to keep track of what the status of that particular lead is. Okay, so now this is the path if the response type equal to email. So if the response type is email, then this is the path. Here I am adding another path which will perform the Google Sheet updation based on any other response type. So this is just a dummy section that I am adding. So depending on your actual use case, you have to adapt this. So here I am adding the filter. See, filter I am adding is response type non-email, and here I am checking if the response type not equal to email, then I want it to take this particular route. Okay, so here I am using a Google Sheet update a row module, same as this particular module. So it is similar to that module where we are specifying the row number based on this search row module, and here in the suggested response section we are just adding the response type and the response data, and finally we are updating the lead status with the response data. So this is our scenario. So what this scenario will do is it will filter one contact form submission from our Google Sheet where email is there, recommended action is there, but the suggested response is empty. And then it will use LLM to identify what is the response it should take, whether it should be email or something else. And if it is email, then it will generate the email and send that particular email. After that, it will update the status of that particular row or that submission on the Google Sheets. And if it is not email, then it will update the Google Sheet with the suggested response. Now in our sheet we have the suggested response empty for both our previous submissions. One is a support request, another one is a spam. So let's run our make.com module and see what happens. Remember to always save your scenario before you do anything. So let me just run this particular scenario. Now see this, it executed once and it identified one row, it processed the row, it identified that it should send an email because this is the first row where the request is for support, so that is why it is sending an email. Now if you look at this, you will see this one, it collected this information, it gathered this data from Google Sheet, then based on the LLM it generated this response. See this one, in response it specified the response type as email and it gave the subject and the message for the email. Then we parsed the data and we converted that response into the different sections. See this one, this is HTML and Markdown formatted so that it will be neater. Now it sent the email. See this one, it used the subject to send the email. Can you see this? So this is a dummy email that I used, and here I received the email that was just now sent. So if I open this email, you will see the email like this. So see the subject, so it is the subject, and here this is the message. So in this one, the Newlian character etc. is not preserved, but the URLs etc. is working. So you have to adapt the prompt so that this will be structured in a proper manner. So that is really simple to do it. And you can see this one, it is providing dummy integration gate URLs and also providing the link to schedule a call. You can configure the email to look similar to this one. So this is the format that we will want, which you will be able to easily implement. And here you can see, so this is the format, the footer also it will automatically update based on the company information we provided. And if you look at the Google Sheet, you can see for the first one, our response it added successfully to this sheet, and the lead status is now email sent. So that is a success. Now let's see what happens for our spam message. So let's go ahead and execute this make.com scenario once again. See this, now it took the second path, which is response type not email. And if you look at the response of the LLM, you can see this response type as no email, response data spam, no reply required. Now if you go to our Google Sheet, you will see this one, suggested response no email, spam, no reply required. And in the lead status, you will see spam and no reply required. So this is how you will be able to automatically take action or respond to your contact form submission based on AI. So this is just the tip of the iceberg where I am showing you just how you will be able to automate using make.com. But the possibilities are limitless. Depending on your requirement, your organization policy, your organization process, you will be able to automate the entire setup in an intelligent, no-code way. So I hope this 3-part series gave you an idea of how you will be able to automate your contact form submission capture, analysis and response with no-code solutions. So no coding, purely using no-code solutions and AI. So that's it from me on this 3-part series where we saw from contact form to the automated response. I hope you enjoyed this series. So please give your comments in the comment section below, and please do like, share and subscribe this video. If you need any help with your automation needs, just get in touch with us at shogini.com. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Your support really helps. Have ideas or suggestions? Drop them in the comments. Let's build together. At Shogini, we offer expert no-code make.com and Python AI automation consulting with ready-to-use modules to jumpstart your projects. Stay tuned and subscribe for more.